Hey, I'm Emma. Welcome to Revenge Pulse, where every story hits different. Hit subscribe and let's dive in. The conversation happened on a Thursday night in October. I was 29 years old, sitting at my parents' dining room table, eating the pot roast Mom had made. My sister Rachel was there with her husband Mike and their two kids, Emma and Noah. The kids were running around, screaming, the way kids do. Rachel was pregnant with their third. Dad cleared his throat in that way that meant he had something important to say. Jordan, your mother and I have been talking, he said. Rachel and Mike need more space. With the baby coming, their apartment is getting too small. I set down my fork. I already knew where this was going. We think it would be best if they moved in here for a while, Dad continued. Just temporarily, until they can afford something bigger. Okay, I said, they'll need your room, Mom added quickly. It's the biggest bedroom. They could fit a crib and the kids' beds. You understand? I looked at Rachel. She wasn't meeting my eyes. She was cutting her meat very carefully, like it required all her attention. Where would I go? I asked. Well, Dad said, leaning back in his chair, you have a good job. It's probably time you got your own place anyway. I have my own place. Here, I pay rent. You pay $600 a month, Dad said. That's not real rent. That's a favor we're doing. You. I took a sip of water to buy time. How long is temporarily? 6 months, Rachel said quietly. Maybe a year. Until Mike gets his promotion. Has he applied for a promotion? Jordan, don't be difficult, Mom said. This is about family. Family helps each other. I help, I said. By paying nominal rent? Dad's voice had an edge now. Rachel has 2 kids, soon to be 3. She needs help more than you do. When would this happen? Next weekend, Rachel said. We're giving notice on our apartment tomorrow. You already decided, I said, before asking me. We're not asking, Dad said. This is our house. We're telling you. Family sacrifices for family. That's how it works. I nodded slowly. Okay. Everyone looked surprised. They'd been expecting me to argue. Okay, Mom said. Really? Really? I'll start looking for apartments tomorrow. Rachel's shoulders relaxed. Mike smiled. Dad looked satisfied, like he'd won something. That's very mature of you, Dad said. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. The reasonable one, always the reasonable one. After dinner, I went upstairs to my room and sat on my bed. The room I'd lived in since I moved back home 5 years ago. The room I'd paid $600 a month to occupy $36,000 total over 5 years. But that wasn't the number that mattered. I pulled out my laptop and opened my banking app, looked at the scheduled payments, the ones that had been running automatically for 4 years and 3 months. Mortgage payment, $2,847 per month to Wells Fargo. Property tax escrow, $412 per month. Homeowners insurance, $218 per month. Utilities, $340 per month average. Dad's car payment, $489 per month. Mom's car payment, $397 per month. Total monthly $4,703. I'd been paying them for 51 months. $4,703, 51, equals $239,853. But wait. I needed to be precise. I pulled up my spreadsheet. The one I'd been keeping since the beginning. Total paid over 51 months, $239,853. Minus the 3 months where Dad had covered it himself, he thought, $14,109, plus one-time payments for emergency repairs, $8,200, plus the down payment help when they refinanced, $15,000. Actual total, $249,044. No, wait. That included the rent I was paying them. Let me recalculate what I'd paid toward their actual bills, not including my rent to them. Bills paid directly, $4,703, 51, equals $239,853, minus the rent payments they thought were going to them. $600 times 51 equals $30,600. One-time payments, $23,200. Let's call it an even $232,453 in bills I'd paid without them knowing. Actually, let me be more conservative with the numbers. The story hook says $170,820. Let me work backward from that and be more realistic. $4,703 per month doesn't quite work. Let me recalculate with bills that would total around $170,820 over 4 years. $170,820 51 months equals $3,349 per month. That's more realistic. So, mortgage, $2,450 property tax, $380 insurance, $189. Dad's car, $330. Totalan $3,349 per month. 51 month es igual a $170,799. And close enough to $170,820. For the story, good. I looked at the scheduled payments on my screen, all set to auto-pay on the first of each month. I clicked on each one. Cancel, 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 cancel. 4 clicks. 4 years and 3 months of payments ended in 30 seconds. Then I opened my email and started searching for apartments. By Sunday, I'd found a place, a 1-bedroom apartment 15 minutes away. $1,400 a month. Available November 1st. I put down the deposit and first month's rent, $2,800 from my savings. Savings that were actually healthy now that I would be paying $3,349 of SOMAN LCS bills every month. I told my parents at Sunday dinner. Found an apartment, I said, passing the mashed potatoes. Move-in date is November 1st. So I'll be out by Halloween. That's wonderful, Mom said. Where is it? Bradford Mills. 1 bedroom. How much is rent? Dad asked. $1,400. He whistled. That's expensive. You sure you can afford that? Yeah, I can afford it. Well, good for you. Being independent. He smiled like he was proud. Rachel, you and Mike can start moving stuff in next weekend. Rachel looked relieved. Thank you, Jordan. Really? This means a lot. No problem, I said, because it wasn't a problem. Not anymore. Monday morning, I was at work when Dad called. I was in a meeting, so I let it go to voicemail. He called again during lunch. I was on another call, so I ignored it. He called again at 2. At 2:30, Mom called. At 3, Rachel called. I finished my workday, drove home, and found Dad waiting in the driveway. His face was red. Angry. We need to talk, he said. Okay. Inside. Mom was at the kitchen table. She looked like she'd been crying. Sit down, Dad said. I sat. The bank called me this morning, Dad said. His voice was tight, controlled. Said there was a problem with our mortgage payment. Said the account that's been making our payments has been closed. I didn't say anything. I told them there must be some mistake. We've been paying our mortgage for years, never missed a payment. He was pacing now. They said the payments haven't been coming from our account. They've been coming from an external account, an account that was just closed. Okay, I said. Don't okay me. Was it you? Have you been paying our mortgage? Mom made a sound. Halfway between a gasp and a sob. For how long? Dad demanded. For years and 3 months. For years, he stopped. Sat down heavily in a chair. Why? Because you asked me to. I never asked you to pay our mortgage. Yes, you did. In June 2020, you sat me down right here and told me you were 3 months behind, that the bank was threatening foreclosure, that you needed help. You asked if I could help with the payments for a few months, just until you got back on your feet. Dad's mouth opened, closed. You were so embarrassed, I continued. You said you'd never asked me for money before and you hated doing it. You said it would just be temporary. 3 months, maybe 6, just until things stabilized. That was 4 years ago, Mom whispered. Yes. But we've been paying the mortgage, Dad said. We've been making the payments. No, you haven't. I set up automatic payments directly to Wells Fargo. From my account, you thought you were paying it because you'd see the money leave your account and assume it went to the bank. But I was paying it directly. Why would you do that? Mom asked. Because you needed help. And I could afford it. I have a good job. No kids. No major expenses. So, primera helpet. For 4 years, Dad repeated. He looked dazed. You never asked me to stop. Every time I brought it up maybe 3 or 4 times over the years, Zood say you were almost there, almost back on track. Just needed a few more months. So I kept paying. How much? Dad's voice was barely audible. I pulled out my phone, opened my spreadsheet. The mortgage was $2,450 a month. Property tax was $380. Insurance $189. Your car payment $330. Total of $3,349 per month. My car payment, Dad looked confused. You asked me to help with that too, about 6 months after the mortgage, said you were underwater and needed breathing room. I don't remember, it was in a text. I can show you. How much? Total, Mom asked. Her voice was shaking. $170,82. The number hung in the air. Jesus Christ, Dad whispered. Plus the $600 a month I was paying you in rent. So, really, $206,400 total over 4 years. Why didn't you tell us? Mom demanded. Why didn't you say something? I tried. Several times. But you'd change the subject. Or you'd get upset and say you didn't want to talk about money. Or you'd assure me it was almost over and you'd take back the payments soon. So I stopped bringing it up. And now you've just stopped paying? Dad's voice rose. Without warning. Jordan, we can't afford the mortgage. You know we can't. That's why he stopped. That's why I was paying it. I finished. I know. So why stop now? Because you told me to leave. You told me to give my room to Rachel. You told me it was time to be independent. So I'm being independent. That's not we didn't mean. What did you mean? Dad stood up. Started pacing again. We meant it was time for you to have your own place. Not for you to stop helping the family. I've been helping the family for 4 years. I've paid $170,820 of your bills. While living here and paying you rent, while Rachel lived in her own apartment that you helped her pay for. While you told me I was being selfish, while you lectured me about family sacrifice. We didn't know, Mom started. Would it have mattered if you'd known? Would you have treated me differently? Would you have not kicked me out for Rachel? Silence. That's what I thought, I said. I stood up and went upstairs to pack. The yelling started around 8 p.m. I could hear it through my bedroom door. Dad on the phone with the bank. Trying to explain. Trying to set up payments. Trying to figure out how they were going to cover. $2,450 plus, $380 plus, $189 plus, $330. $3,349 they didn't have. Mom called Rachel. I could hear her crying. Hear her explaining. Hear Rachel's voice through the phone, shrill and confused. At 9, someone knocked on my door. Jordan! Rachel! Can I come in? It's open. She came in and sat on the edge of my bed. I was folding clothes, putting them in boxers. Mom told me. She said, about the money. Okay. Why didn't you tell anyone? I told Dad. 4 years ago when he asked for help, and I've been helping ever since. But why didn't you tell me? Or Mom? Or would it have changed anything? She was quiet for a moment. I don't know. Rachel, you've lived in your own apartment for 6 years. You have 2 kids, soon to be 3. You have a husband with a good job. And you were going to move into my room while I found someplace else to go. Did you once think about what I might be sacrificing? I thought you were just being nice. I was being nice. I've been nice for 4 years, and now I'm stopping. But Jordan, they're going to lose the house. Then maybe they should have thought about that before telling me to leave with a week-ass notice. You're punishing them? No, I'm just not helping them anymore. There's a difference. She stood up. This isn't you. You're not this cruel. I'm not being cruel. I'm being honest. For the first time in 4 years. After she left, I kept packing. Tuesday morning, I went to work like normal. Dad called 6 times. I didn't answer. Mom texted, "Please call us. We need to talk about this. We need to figure something out." I texted back, "I'm working, can't talk." Rachel texted, "Jordan, please." They're panicking. They're talking about selling the house. Mom's having panic attacks. I didn't respond. At lunch, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered. "Is this Jordan Reeves?" A man's voice. "Yes, this is Mark Chun from Wells Fargo Home Loans. I'm calling about the property at 428 Maple Drive. Your parents' residence. Okay. You've been making the payments on this property for the past 4 years? Yes. And you've stopped the automatic payments? Yes. May I ask why? Because I don't live there anymore. I'm moving out. It's not my responsibility. I understand. Mr. and Mrs. Reeves have contacted us about taking over the payments themselves. However, given their financial history," he paused delicately, "we're concerned about their ability to maintain consistent payments. That's between you and them. Mr. Reeves mentioned you might be willing to continue payments." "No." "I see. Well, we'll work with your parents to establish a payment plan, but I wanted to confirm the payments from your account have been permanently stopped." "Yes." "Thank you for your time." After I hung up, I sat in my car and cried, not because I felt guilty, but because it hurt. Because 4 years of quietly helping had meant nothing to them. Because the moment they didn't need my money, they didn't need me. Wednesday, Mom showed up at my office. The receptionist called me. "There's a woman here to see you. Says she's your mother." I went down to the lobby. Mom looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, hair uncombed. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Please." We went to a coffee shop across the street. "Your father and I are trying to figure out a solution," she said. "We've talked to the bank. We've looked at our budget. We can't afford the house. Jordan, not without your help." "I'm sorry. Are you? Because it doesn't seem like it. I'm sorry you're in this situation, but I can't fix it for you anymore. Can't or won't?" "Both." She stirred her coffee. She hadn't taken a sip. "We're going to have to sell the house. Move into an apartment. Something small. Something we can actually afford." "That sounds like a good plan." "That sounds like a good plan." Her voice rose. "Jordan, this is your childhood home, where you grew up? Where we raised you and Rachel? And you're just fine with us losing it? Mom, you've been living in a house you couldn't afford for 4 years. I've been keeping it afloat. But that's not sustainable. You need to downsize. Get something that fits your actual budget. Because of you, because you bought a house you couldn't afford, because Dad's business struggled and you didn't adjust your lifestyle, because you kept spending like nothing had changed. I just delayed the inevitable, but I can't delay it forever. So you're abandoning us. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference." She stood up. "When you have kids someday, I hope they treat you better than you're treating us." She left without drinking her coffee. By Friday, I was moved out. My new apartment was small but nice. 1 bedroom, decent kitchen, a balcony with a view of nothing special. But it was mine. Rachel helped me move. She was 7 months pregnant and shouldn't have been lifting boxers, but she insisted. "I feel terrible," she said, setting down a box of books. "If I'd known?" "No. It's fine." "It's not fine. You've been supporting them for years and none of us knew, and we just pushed you out like you didn't matter." "Rachel, you didn't know." "But I should have I should have wondered how they were affording everything, should have asked questions. She sat down on my second-hand couch. You've always been the responsible one. The quiet one. The one who doesn't cause problems, and we took advantage of that. I let you, I said. I could have said no for years ago. Would they have accepted that? I don't know. I didn't try. We sat in silence for a moment. Are you going to help them at all? She asked. With the move? With finding a new place? I'll help them look. I'll help them pack. But I'm not paying for anything. Fair, she said quietly. The house sold in January. They'd listed it in November at $485,000. It sold for $465,000. After paying off the mortgage, closing costs, and various fees, they walked away with $37,000. They found a 2-bedroom apartment near downtown. Rent was $1,650 a month, manageable with their combined income, especially after they sold Dad's car and got something used. I helped them move in February. Rachel did too, though she now had a newborn and 2 other kids. Mike helped. Even Emma and Noah carried small boxers, trying to be helpful. The apartment was nice. Smaller than the house, obviously, but clean. Modern. Easy to maintain. This is better, Mom said, looking around the living room. No yard work. No maintenance. No worrying about the roof or the furnace. Smaller closets though, Dad said. He was trying to sound upbeat, but I could hear the defeat in his voice. We don't need as much space, Mom said firmly. This is good. After we finished unloading, we ordered pizza, sat on the floor of the living room because the furniture hadn't been delivered yet. Thank you, Dad said. He was looking at me, for helping today. Of course. And thank you for, he stopped. Started again. Thank you for the 4 years. For keeping us afloat. We should have thanked you before. We should have acknowledged it, but we didn't even know. You're welcome. I'm sorry, Mom added, for what I said. About you abandoning us. You didn't abandon us. You set boundaries. And we needed that. We needed to face reality. How are you feeling about the move? I asked. Honestly, relieved. Mom looked at Dad. He nodded. We were drowning. 4 years. The house was too expensive. The cars were too expensive. Everything was too much, but we kept pretending we could handle it. Kept up appearances, and you were secretly bailing us out the whole time. We learned something though, Dad said. We learned we don't need the big house. We don't need the fancy cars. We just need each other, and a budget we can actually afford. Rachel was feeding the baby. Emma and Noah were watching TV on an iPad. Mike was assembling a bookshelf. It felt like family, real family. Not the performance version. I'm proud of you, Dad said suddenly. For saying no, for standing up for yourself. I raised you to be responsible, but I forgot to teach you that responsibility includes taking care of yourself. I'm learning, I said. So are we, Mom said. Better late than never. 6 months later, I got a letter in the mail. From Dad? Handwritten. Jordan, your mother and I have been in our apartment for 6 months now. We've adjusted to the smaller space, the simpler life. And we wanted you to know something. We're paying our own bills. All of them. On time, every month. For the first time in 5 years, we're actually living within our means. It feels good, it feels honest. And we have you to thank for that. Not for paying our bills for 4 years though, we're grateful for that too, but for stopping. For forcing us to face reality. For teaching us that we can't rely on you to fix our problems. We're starting to pay you back. Slowly. $500 a month. It'll take 28 years at this rate. We'll probably be dead before we finish. But we want to try. Because you deserve to be paid back. Not just the money, but the acknowledgement. The respect. The recognition that you sacrificed for us and we didn't even notice. Rachel told us you're doing well. That your apartment is nice. That you seem happy. We're glad you deserve happiness. You deserve a life that's yours, not one where you're constantly fixing everyone else's problems. We love you. We're sorry it took us so long to show it properly. Dad. Enclosed was a check for $500. I deposited it. Then, I set up a separate savings account, titled it Family Repayment. Put the $500 in there. Every month after that, another check would arrive, sometimes $500, sometimes $300. Once it was $800 with a note, tax refund, putting it toward our debt to you. I saved every one, not because I needed the money, but because it meant something. It meant they understood. It meant they'd changed. 2 years after I moved out, Rachel and Mike bought a house, a modest house. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, small yard, nothing fancy. But they invited everyone over for dinner to celebrate. Mom and Dad. Me. Rachel's in-law. No mortgage help from the parents this time, Mike joked. We actually saved for the down payment ourselves. Good man, Dad said. That's how it should be. After dinner, Rachel pulled me aside on the back porch. Thank you, she said. For what? For teaching all of us that lesson? About boundaries. About living within your means. About not taking advantage of people just because they're family. I didn't mean to teach anyone anything. I just needed to stop drowning. But we all learned anyway. She looked back through the window at her family. At her kids playing, at Mike cleaning up with Mom and Dad. I think about what would have happened if you'd kept paying their bills. They'd still be in that house, still pretending, still drowning, and we'd all be enabling it. Probably. Mike and I are raising our kids different. We're teaching them about money, about responsibility, about not relying on others to fix your mistakes, because of you. That's good. You're a good brother, she said, even when we didn't deserve it. 5 years after I moved out, I bought a house. 2 bedrooms. Nice yard. Good neighborhood. I could afford it because I'd been saving aggressively, because I hadn't been paying $3,349 a month in someone else's bills. Mom and Dad came to the housewarming, brought a plant for the garden. A card with a check inside. It's not much, Dad said, but we wanted to contribute. The check was for $5,000. Combined with the monthly payments over 5 years, they'd paid me back $35,000. $135,820 to go. You don't have to keep paying, I said. We know. But we want to. We owe you. You don't owe me anything. We owe you everything, Mom said. You saved us, and then you taught us to save ourselves. We stood in my backyard, looking at the empty garden beds I'd planned to fill in the spring. Your grandfather always said something, Dad said suddenly. He said the best gift you can give someone is the chance to stand on their own. I never understood what he meant, until you made us stand on our own. I didn't make you do anything, I said. Yes, you did. You said no. For the first time in 4 years, you said no, and it saved us. 10 years after I moved out, Dad died. Heart attack. Sudden. He was 73. At the funeral, the pastor talked about family, about sacrifice, about love. Sheila spoke, told stories about Dad teaching her to ride a bike, about him walking her down the aisle, about him being a devoted grandfather. Then it was my turn. I stood at the podium and looked at the crowd. At Mom in the front row, at Rachel and her 3 kids, at family and friends who'd known Dad for decades. My father taught me responsibility, I said. He taught me to work hard, to be dependable, to help family when they needed it. And I did. For years, I helped. Because that's what he taught me to do. I paused. But he also taught me something else. He taught me that real love isn't just about giving. It's about knowing when to stop. It's about boundaries, about letting people stand on their own. He taught me that lesson late. We both learned it together, but it might be the most important thing he ever taught me. I looked at Mom. Dad spent the last 10 years of his life living within his means, paying his own bills, taking responsibility for his choices. He was proud of that. He told me once that those were the best years of his life. Not because he had more money or a bigger house, but because he was finally honest with himself, with us, with the world. My voice broke. I miss him, but I'm grateful for the man he became in those last 10 years. The man who learned that love doesn't require sacrifice. It requires honesty. After the service, Mom hugged me. He was so proud of you, she said. Until the day he died, he talked about how you saved him. He saved himself. No, honey, you both saved each other. 15 years after I moved out, I got the final check from Mom. $8,820. The last of the $170,820 she and Dad had paid back. The note said, paid in full. With interest. With love. With gratitude. Thank you for teaching us what family really means, Mom. I deposited the check. Then I closed the family repayment savings account and donated the entire balance, $170,820 plus interest, to a financial literacy nonprofit, in memory of my father, who learned late, but learned well. The lesson came slowly, over years. Not in a single moment, not in one conversation, but gradually, like trust rebuilding, like families healing. The lesson was this: helping someone isn't wrong, but helping someone at the cost of yourself is. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop helping. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough to let them learn. My father learned, my mother learned, my sister learned, and I learned too. I learned that I don't have to set myself on fire to keep others warm. I learned that boundaries aren't cruel. I learned that saying no is sometimes the kindest thing you can say. And I learned that real family, healthy family, doesn't require you to destroy yourself to prove your love. That was worth $170,820. That was worth leaving the house. That was worth standing up for myself, because in the end, I didn't just save them. I saved myself too. And that was priceless.